started. So, the reason we are playing this song for you is because we want to convey a chill vibe. We understand that, can you guys hear me? Okay, that everyone's nervous, and we get that. A lot of parents are very worried about being a senior parent, even if you've had seniors before. This is a concerning time, and we get that. Everyone's stressed out about it, and that's why we decided to take a preemptive move and have a Rising Senior Parent Night, which is what we're doing tonight. We've never done one of these before, so please be gracious with us if we make mistakes, because we've never done this before. The reason why I'm doing this, though, is to try and answer any questions that you might have over the summer, and hopefully it will give us a break this summer that is much needed, I think, because we've had 3 years nonstop of no summer break and dealing with lots of things, and hopefully we can come back recharged and have a great start to the fall. But we can answer questions tonight. We have some frequently asked questions. We have lots of handouts for you, and that will hopefully get everybody kind of pointed in the right direction for next year. And like I said, we'll have time at the end for lots of questions, but we're going to go through and explain all the things that we've hopefully already covered with your students. We've done most of everything we're going to go over tonight is stuff that they already should know. If you go home and your kid is like, I have no idea about any of that stuff, we've told them lots of times, so there's a big disconnect there. But you guys will have all this information now, so you can sit there and say, well, I know what they're talking about, and this is what you should be doing. That's what I'm about to do. So, having said that, I am Cameron Irving. You've probably received lots of emails from me. I am the chair of the counseling department. I have been here for, this is my 6th year, going into my 7th year at Bellarmine. So, and I graduated from Bellarmine back in the 90s, so I'm also an alumni. This is Chris Scotty. He's our newest counselor here. And he's also our military liaison, so he is the person you would ask if you have questions about academies, ROTC, things like that. Oh, and I should mention I also handle scholarships, so if you have questions about scholarships, I'm the person to ask about that. This is Twan Wilson. She is our second most senior counselor here. She's been here for 5 years. And she's also our graduation coordinator, so she just finished coordinating our amazing graduation with all of our huge senior class this year. And Katie Keene, who has been with us for just a little over a year. And she's also our testing coordinator, so she handles all the testing, and I don't have to do it anymore, so I'm really excited that she's here. So these are our 4 counselors. And we didn't write down what formations we have, but do you guys know yours off the top of your head? No? No teachers? I have 3 formations, so I have Rayburger, White, and wait, did I say Rayburger?
Barnes.
And Barnes, yeah.
McCarthy.
I have Sweeney and Garcia.
And she has the other 2. Minhawken, yeah, Minhawken, and yes. I have those. Why did I say Rayburger? Okay, and you have parent, yeah. Okay. So we're going to begin with a prayer. Mr. Scotty's going to lead us in prayer.
So this opening prayer is from St. Louis University, their prayer book. It's called Making Decisions. I think it's fitting for this evening. Holy One, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bond of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that might affect students, staff, faculty, alumni, and friends of our university. And continue to remind us that we do here today, all that we accomplish is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen. So, we're going to, here are the list of items we'll be discussing. Summer to-do checklist. What is the application plan? And how to add colleges to Naviance.
Okay, I'm gonna take this one. Just, I feel like I'm at graduation again, where everyone's pulling the makeup. So I'm going to talk to you guys about the summer college to-do list. This is something that your students should already be very familiar with. They've all had meetings with all of their advisors already, so all of us, they've come in, or should have come in. I'm not going to lie and tell you that all of my juniors have come in, because some of them have not. If your student has not come to their junior appointment with their counselor, please don't tell them that they need to squeeze that in by the last day of school, because it's finals now and that ship has sailed. It's okay. We will make do without meeting with them. It'll be fine. We'll catch up at the fall meeting with them when they're seniors. But if they haven't had this meeting, that just means that some of this information that we're going to go over, they may not have actually seen firsthand, but they have definitely been information while we've talked to them about it. So the to-do list is located in many places. It's on the homepage of Naviance, so when students log into Naviance on their very home landing page, it's right there. This pink link that you see at the bottom there is the very first thing that pops up. It says, you're almost there, you're almost seniors, and then it has that link. It's like, don't forget to do your summer assignments. On the Bellarmine homepage, there is a link to summer assignments. It's also there. I believe that Mr. Hoover is also going to be putting it on the counseling page, and I know later this summer I'm going to be emailing it to all of you and all of the rising seniors. So they're going to be bombarded with this. So if they tell you they don't see it, they're lying. Okay? It will be there. So this is all of the stuff that needs to be finished before they meet with us in the fall. And their fall meeting can vary. It can be any time from like August to pretty much October. Most of the time we ask them that they should meet with us at least a month prior to their earliest deadline, so it depends on how your student's applying when that meeting's going to be. So don't think that they need to meet with us like the first day back to school. It's okay if that doesn't happen. It just depends on what their application deadlines and timeline is like. So if I were to click on this link, it's going to take me to this page, and this is the to-do list. I apologize for the white background. I should have given you all a pair of these. It's very bright. So it has the 3 tasks, and it also has directions on how to complete all of them. So they should be able to follow these steps and very easily complete all these tasks. The very first thing is the senior questionnaire. That's something, if you had a student in the past, was always due on the first day of school, but we decided to change that this year. And we asked them to have it done by the last day of school this year. So they're probably scurrying to finish that right now. It should only take them, I would say, 30 minutes to an hour. The trick is we ask them that they should do it in a Word doc and cut and paste. So do it first in a Word doc and then cut and paste it, because it has a tendency to be weird when you try to save it. And they'll say, I did it like 5 times and I lost my answers. Well, we told them right here to do it in a Word doc and cut and paste it. So hopefully that won't happen. What it is it's the questionnaire where we want all of their activities, all of their sports, all of their volunteer work, all of their everything that they've done throughout high school. So this document is what we use to write their letters of recommendation. And the reason we're asking for it early this year is because hopefully we can get a jump start on those, because we're noticing that there's more and more students that are applying early. So it's getting harder and harder for us to keep up with the demand for letters and get them done as early as they need them. So that gives us some time to work on them over the summer, as well as their teachers, if we choose to. So you can see where it's located, and like I said, all of you should have access to this on the homepage of Naviance. And it should have been emailed to you also last week. So it says There's no submit button, just click update when you're done. And so they should know that as well. The other thing we ask is that they include things that they might be doing this year. So project through your senior year. So I had a student come to me today and say, Mrs. Irving, I think I'm going to be playing such and such sport this year, and I'm probably going to be a captain. Should I put that on there? Yes, put that on there. That's information that I would like to know for their letter. The second thing is the senior application plan, and Mrs. Wilson and Mrs. Keene are going to talk about the application plan and the different components of that tonight. So they'll show you what that is, but it's basically like your finalized list of schools. That needs to be done when you meet with your counselor in the fall. So one of our favorite Jesuit words, discernment, they're going to discern over the summer where they're actually going to apply to. So they'll make those decisions, and then they'll bring in that rank order list of colleges. And then the third thing is matching their Common App and Naviance accounts. This is something that they cannot do until after August 1st. So if students are like, I'm done with everything already, and it's July, you're like, oh, no, you're not. Because you can't even add your colleges into your Common App until after August 1st, because right now they're in the application cycle for this year's seniors. So they can choose their schools and decide where they want to apply, but they can't load them into Common App until after August 1st. Okay? And so this is the directions for all of that. It has all those details that they're going to need as far as their class size, whether we rank, the cumulative GPA. Any of that other information is going to be on their transcript, their actual courses and the grades they've received. Transcripts won't be ready probably until around July 1st, but they can access their transcripts in Blackbaud now, so they don't have to get one from us. They can print it off of Blackbaud or look at it right on their iPad while they're working on a laptop. So, and it has this information about signing the FERPA release authorization. That's important so that they can match their accounts. And it tells them about recommenders that they don't need to do that part in the Common App. We do all of that through Naviance for them. So it has all of these directions on here. It talks about the NCAA and the NAIA. It's important for students to track whether they're eligible for those things. But it is also important for students to let us know if they are being recruited by somebody or they anticipate being recruited by somebody. We have forms that we need them to sign. We can send those to them through Blackbaud, to you and to them. We need to have them sign a waiver. So if we have coaches requesting transcripts, we can't send them to them without their permission. And then the last step is to add those colleges into the colleges I'm thinking about list on Naviance. And Mrs. Wilson is going to go through and show you how to do that. They should have already created a Common App account, but we do explain how to do that just in case they weren't in their formations the 2 days that we dropped by and showed them how to do them. And then it talks about transcripts. So all these directions are available on Naviance for you and for your student. Okay, so moving on, we're going to talk about what the application plan is, and that is going to be Ms. Keene.
That's short here. Let's see. Okay, good evening. We're going to put your mind at ease and help you walk through what an application plan is. You might have picked up one of these on the table, and that's what I'm referencing right now. The students can access this in Naviance, so they can easily fill it out with Notability. Won't be a problem for them, but just for your reference tonight, we've given you the hard copy. So you will notice that we have a list for colleges on the left-hand side of that, and we are asking you guys to be supportive of your student as they decide what colleges to attend. The application plan in itself is kind of like our contract. So when students have this all filled out with all their colleges on it, as well as the rest of the information we're asking, it's a binding contract. We're asking these students to let us know who we're communicating with, who we're sending transcripts to, which teachers they're recommending, so that we get those all in the packet when they are due. It's to also help them organize their process, so they're on top of it. They know when to schedule a meeting with us because they know the deadline when those applications are due. and we want to meet with them a month in advance of their earliest deadline. So this is a great tool that just helps them tangibly organize. And then if they should exceed 9 schools, as there are spaces for, that's going to require an additional form. It will also require additional form if they change anything, which we can handle changes. If they come back and say, I really considered another school to add, that's fine. Let's see another form though, and get your signature on that, and then we'll make a copy of that and give that back to them so they can stay organized and we're all on the same page. So as they look to their college list, I know as parents we always like to dream with them and perhaps select some colleges. Really help these kids work through some of the important aspects of college. I mean, such as the major they're looking for. Do they want to be in a private school? Do they want a smaller school? Do they want a larger school, big city school? What kind of things are they hoping to find on campus? Do they want a Greek life? Do they want other supporting groups, an honors program? Perhaps access to research, whatever that is, continue to help them to process through that and narrow down the selections. One of those things that's important in that list is to consider, let's see here, go to the next page. Oops. Sorry about that. Their target list, when they put that in order, we're hoping it's in rank order. So number 1 would be their first choice school, all the way down to their probably last choice. Now, given that, we want to have a good mix, right? So we've got to include safety, target, and reach schools. Some of those terms might be familiar to you if you've had a senior before, but I think the main thing is to realize that a safety school, even though, I mean, it sounds safety, right? So they are definitely above the benchmark of what normally would be admitted as far as the GPA, test scores, but they also want to make sure that they would actually go there. We have some that just throw WSU on there, or they throw something, and they're really not ever going to see themselves there. They're just like, no. Choose the backup plan that you actually would go to. I don't mean to, I'm not downplaying the Cougars, so some of you are Cougar fans. We just have a lot of kids that excel and want some bigger dreams. So, I'm going to keep, I better just stop right now. I'm getting deeper. Sorry. Sorry, I gotta make you laugh, right? This isn't all that exciting. But anyway, the maybe category, the target category. So please note that those students who choose those schools need to be close to the middle of the 50 percentile in whatever that school accepts for GPA and test scores. You want it likely that they would get into that school. Now, the reach schools, these are the high IVs, the more competitive, lower acceptance rate schools. These might also be referred to as the dream schools. Please know that your students are going to want those on there. And we love supporting that. We hope that they get into those, but that's why we choose the variety, because some of those great colleges have, a 4.4 acceptance rate. And when they're receiving 30,000 applications, it's pretty competitive. So we hope that the students will find a variety on this list. That's a great question. So when we are looking at Naviance, the question was, how do you know what's target, safety, and a reach school? We have access to information for 11 years, I believe, in Naviance. Are you covering that? Yeah. It'll be all talked through with Mrs. Wilson here. But basically, you're looking at data to see what other students compare to your student who have gotten in. Does that make sense? So there's also sometimes published information on the websites that indicate the student, the students that likely get in the mean GPA or worse test scores will be provided, and you can gauge it that way. So there's many ways to apply for school. We have early decision, early action, regular decision, and rolling. So that's the next column that you will see in your application plan. You'll see the acronyms there. And it's important to note that with early decision, this is a binding contract. This would be a date that's typically early in November, but the students will only be able to apply to one school early decision. That is, we actually do sign a waiver in the computer that states we understand that. And what is important to note about that is that not very many colleges will even offer early decision. But if you are accepted, you will hear back early. And once you're accepted, you basically pay the non-refundable deposit and withdraw all other college applications. So if financial aid is something to be considered with a child's decision, that would be possibly not the right choice for them, because that one major caveat of early decision is that you're entering an agreement without seeing any financial aid offers. So for those, basically when you apply early decision, you may also apply other schools, but you will have to pull applications back if you hear that you're accepted. Am I covering that fully and clearly? Can you apply early to other schools? I don't believe so, right? You cannot. So with that early decision, you could apply to other colleges, but it would be regular admission. So early action deadlines, unlike early decision, they are not binding. You can choose many schools to apply to early action. Usually they are dates in October, November, and December. The advantage to hearing back early action decisions is that you have more time to decide about the financial aid package or to discern with other schools to compare. Let's see, this one, early action, you will also be given a time of May 1st as the deadline to accept that offer, if you so decide. If you are possibly deferred during early action, your application will be rolled over to the regular decision applicant pool, which can be an advantage if there's more research done by the student, or the student has more awards, or they've won another recognition. There's an opportunity for them to submit something to the school in the form of a letter or proof of that accolade or whatever they've earned to add to their package before they get considered for the regular decision applicant pool. So the regular decision, if you choose to go that route, is also not binding. It's typically the last deadline that the college will offer, usually December, January, or February. And let's see, you will have the May 1st deadline to accept their offer if they give that to you. One other thing to note about applying, you can go rolling, and that's not binding also. Basically, a school will have a rolling deadline that allows them to apply throughout the year until all the seats are filled. and that date can be really, really vary from school to school. So, however, given all of these options, the students do indicate when they want their application to go and be reviewed by the school. In that column, they're going to list that. We want them to apply early, even if they choose a regular decision, or maybe their school doesn't have an early action. We ask that the students come to us with all of their submissions ready to go no later than November 30th. And we really push that because it gives them a little bit of an advantage. Most of the country doesn't apply as early as that. So we just encourage that. We also want everything ready to go, and they'll have a decision back in their hands. If they're early action, they usually hear back around December or January, otherwise closer to May. But it'll be done behind them, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. It also gives time for us, if the college comes back and says, hey, we didn't get any documents for this or that, we can fix that. Yes?
So, next sentence, with the exception of the accepted review decision process, they can go to this.
Actually, okay, so to clarify, he's wondering if you apply early decision, it seems that they all roll over to the next deadline after that. It really depends on the college. So about 20% of the colleges will offer early action, so it's not all of them. A lot of them just have a regular decision.
Not necessarily because some have the same deadline. So if you could apply to a college, you won't have an early decision deadline and an early action deadline. Because the students knowing that early decision is following early action. It could be the same November 1st. Yeah. And if a student applies for early action and is not accepted, a lot of times colleges have a process in which they have to then contact that college and get that school to consider why I wasn't accepted early action. Please roll me over to regular application. So yeah, sometimes a business communication process is not automatic.
Yeah, please don't assume it's automatic. Okay, so we also have a column on this application here for the Common App. And the Common App is a wonderful streamlined college application system that the students can apply to multiple colleges at one time. It allows the process to go smoothly and quickly because it also matches up with Naviance, so it pairs together really nicely, saving them time. Students have already created this account. We went to their formations and we had them start that process in the spring. So we were asking at that time for them to add some general information, but as Mrs. Irving already mentioned, not the actual college information at this point. So they will continue doing that after August 1st when Common App opens up for rising seniors to add that information in. Materials that they may need to do the Common App, just to recap, unofficial transcripts that we have on Blackboard available for them, so they'll have to actually enter their classes in and their grades. They'll need their list of activities, if they're submitting test scores, contact information. There's also a place in Common App for an essay, and some colleges will have multiple essays. Some will have a personal statement in addition to that, or a community disruption statement. And the community disruption, well, let me explain just quickly. The essay is going to be answering one of 6 prompts. And the personal statement is probably more representative of a short answer, short essay response that would tell the school why they should be selected, essentially. Like, what are they going to need to know about your student outside of their transcript grades, activities, and things. Because just from that, they're going to assume characteristics, qualities. But we want the student to put a lot of effort into that essay because it's their opportunity to sell themselves to the school. The community disruption statement is an opportunity for students to explain that if during COVID there was, a lot of mental health issues, maybe there was some death in the family, some unfortunate job losses, anything that would have altered their life in some significant way, and better explain why their GPA or where their academics started to slip. But just know that, I just want to add at this point, if your child is one of them that had one of those slips, it's okay. It's very, very common. There used to be a stigma about putting in some information in that area about, it being hard emotionally or struggles that happened. It's widely accepted at this point. So it's time for the student just to gear back up and finish strong. Put that behind them and move forward as best and strong as they can. So some colleges don't accept the Common App. You're going to want your student to research their college to find out in the admissions pages how they prefer it. Some schools would want a direct application, such as Georgetown. There are many others. But know that that's a consideration. If they need to apply directly to the school, they will do that online application instead or in addition to the Common App. One other consideration, UW is that way too. They have their own, they use the Coalition app. So they won't accept the Common App. We have another column on this list for testing. So which scores should your students send in? Pay attention to fairtest.org. I know we've mentioned this before at other parent nights. There's over 1,800 colleges that are test optional or test blind and don't care to see scores. Some do if it's favorable. So you want to consider if your student has already tested and done the ACT or SAT, which one was better. There is information available to you on the website. Let's see, what's the one that compares it? There's a table, the concordance table. That could possibly tell you, you can Google concordance tool, and then it'll help compare the two scores so you can see which one seems more significant and favorable for your student. You can also go on Naviance and see where that fares compared to what they accept. We have some schools, like the UC schools, UW, Boston College, Loyola Marymount, Pepperdine, and so on, that are optional. So do pay attention to that. We encourage you, however, to submit the test scores if they are favorable. We've seen some students that the school was optional, but they submitted the test score and it went favorably for them. The Cougs are up there. That's awesome. As well as the Huskies. Okay, so just real quick before Mrs. Wilson jumps up here, the final column that I want to mention requires CSS profile, and some people may not know what that is. So I just want to reiterate that it's a financial aid application that's used by more than 350 colleges, universities, and scholarship programs. The College Board is the one that provides that. So comparably to the FAFSA, we ask every student in the fall to work on the FAFSA with you guys, and you will look at your financial aid documents, your tax returns from 2 years prior to fill out FAFSA. But there are private universities and other places that prefer the CSS profile. So that is why that column exists. Okay, Mrs. Wilson.
Okay, how are we doing? Good. Good. All right, so Mrs. Keene and Mrs. Irving went through everything that your student should be working on over the summer. And I'm going to just point out a few things on Naviance so you can find those things that you're supposed to be working on over the summer and explore some other features that are really helpful for you to help prepare for this process, okay? So first things first, when your student logs on, this is what they're going to see. Okay, does this look familiar to a lot of people? Okay, and so what we really want them to do when they get on here is make sure that they go and check out their account. As you can imagine, we've been communicating a lot through email, but when they become seniors, our communication triples. So everything that you want to know about, events coming up, things happening in their senior year, which is a big deal and a lot of things are happening, you want to make sure that you're getting those communications, especially when I'm sending out graduation information, okay? So make sure that your student has all their information up to date. So this is our Navi student. So you want to make sure that they have email addresses if you guys have made any changes in the last 4 years, because this is when we have them create this account. So freshman year is when they initially put this information. If they have not went back and updated it, it's the same thing from freshman year. So make sure your email address is updated, addresses in case you moved, okay? So you don't want to miss anything that we're sending out. Next, from the home screen, if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, it's our document resources. This is where you're going to find a lot of those documents. The main one, that application plan. So you have a copy in front of you now, but these get misplaced. Students lose them. Also, you'll notice on the application plan, there is room for 9 schools. So if your student is applying to more than 9 schools, we do ask them to create a second application plan. So if they're applying to 10 to 15, they should come in with 2 papers when they come for their senior meeting, okay? So this is where you can find that, make copies, however you need to use it. Also, for the senior questionnaire, you go back to About Me, you click on Surveys from the School, and then this is where you'll find that senior questionnaire. So this is that document that they should be working on now. Hopefully we'll have completed by this week, where they're telling us about all the great things they did over the last 3 years so that we can use that information to include in their letters of record, okay? Only their teachers and the counselor will have access to this, so we encourage them to be as open as possible. Lots of details here, okay? So don't just say, hey, I was a part of this club and I did this sport. Like, it's not a list, all right? We want to know, why did you choose this? What impact did it have on you throughout the 3 years? What did you enjoy about it? Did you have any honors or recognitions? All that is helpful information that we want to help celebrate in their letters. So this should take some time. They should put a lot of detail here, okay? And then like Mrs. Irvin said, it's great to copy, paste it in a Word document, and then put it back in here because it can time out and you can lose all that good information. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. That would be too easy. So yeah, I mean, while they're working in it, it does save, but it can, like, it doesn't really tell you. So it'll just stop saving at some point. It'll time out is what happens essentially. And so it can lose stuff. All right. So those are the 2 main things, and then matching your Common App is that 3rd thing that we need them to do before they come back, starting in the fall. So I wanted to show you a couple more things. The question was, how do you help your student decide what's a good fit, what's a target school? And that really is on an individual basis. You and your student are going to sit down, look at what they've done so far, look at their GPA, test scores, interests, and you're going to consider all those things and start making a plan. All right, and the best way to help you to do that is to research schools and have information about the schools you're considering. And so on Naviance, it makes it really useful for you to check out schools, gather all the information that you're going to need to complete those application plans, and you can do it all from here. So when you're looking at schools, popular one for us, you can just click in any school. This is going to pull up a lot of data for a lot of the universities that are out there in colleges. So you should be able to access any school that you're looking for. And then it's going to take you to this home page. From here, you can look at all the stats. You can find out the next deadline. You can see the acceptance rate, graduation rate, average net price. Okay? All this is still in Naviance. But what's really helpful is to go to the admissions. When you scroll down here, this is that scattergram we were talking about. So this is showing for my student Navi, short for Naviance. They are graphed over here, okay? So Navi has a 1320 PSAT, it doesn't have the SAT scores in here yet, and a 3.5 GPA. So if I was considering Gonzaga, I would know that based just on GPA and test scores, that this might be a pretty strong school for me, right? That I'm on trend of what they're looking for, because they are looking for, on average, a student who has 1277 SAT scores and a 3.6. And this is just based on the data that we've collected based on Bellarmine students who have applied there over the last 10 years. Okay, so is that helpful? And so when you're looking at this and going through your application plan, you're going to sit down with your student and kind of graft yourself on these different schools that they're considering to help you make those decisions. What's a reach school for me? What's a safe school? What's a maybe school? Okay? Student could be on here and be on the charts based off of here, right? But the school based on cost could still make it a reach school for me, right? And so that's where we're going to be determining on that application list. This is when we want to have those real conversations. What does this list of schools look like for me realistically to be applying to next year? Just because it's a reach, we're not saying do not apply. We just want you to have that understanding when you apply, when it has an acceptance rate of 4%, what does that mean for me? Okay, is that helpful? Okay. And so from here, this student can then, okay, it would have a heart here, and then they can click on it, and you could go here and see the colleges that the student has already been putting in that they're thinking about, and from there they can move those colleges into the colleges I'm applying to. So if your student has been checking in Naviance, doing this work, it's nice for them to now go and look at those schools that they have been considering and now re-look at them with a different lens. Is this the school now that I still want to consider applying to? And from here, they'll have all their colleges. So it's actually the same account. What we can do is give parents access to that account. Okay, and so you would have your own login and password to the same account that your students see and have access to. So you can check up on them if you want to. Yes, yeah. And so we encourage you guys to sit down with your students, and that's why we're trying to encourage the process sooner than later, because if you start having these conversations now, this could be a fun process, right? This could be fun getting on here and exploring different schools and checking different things out and looking at the scattergrams and looking at costs, because I promise you, you're going to sit down with your student that you've been nurturing for the last 15, 16, 17 years, and you're going to say, where do you want to go to college, son, daughter? And they're going to look at you in your face and say, I don't know, right? I don't know. And that can be frustrating, okay? But with this, we can get on here and this could be a family activity. We're going to start looking at colleges. We're going to start thinking this through. And it's fun now. It gets scary in August if it's still, I don't know, right? Before senior year. Or you can have a student who is really proactive and has done their job, and they sit down and you ask them that question, and they say, well, mom, dad, I want to go to Duke because they have this, this, and this. And then I'm also considering NYU because they have this, this, and this. And my backup is Pepperdine because they have this, this, and this. And I'm also just going to throw it out there and apply to Harvard just because I want to see what happens, right? And then when you pick your mouth up off the floor, right, you guys got to start having conversations. So this is a good way for this to start having those conversations, start preparing your student, and really start talking about what senior year is going to look like, where do we want to apply, and what's going to give us the best options. Okay? So that's my piece. Yeah. Yeah, and I was going to show you. Thank you for that, sir. So one of the things I like on here is if you just click on this compare me. Oh, there we go. So this is Navi. These are some of the schools that I've already liked and I'm checking out. This is a great kind of overview sheet where you can kind of see comparing me and the schools that I'm considering, seeing where I am in terms of GPA, SATs, ACT, and their acceptance rates, okay? Another great thing that I think that I encourage students to check out when they're just at a loss, they don't know where to go, is this Find Your Fit, okay? From here, they can do a super match and they can dwindle it down based on searching for schools based on degree, based on location, based on cost, based on specific programs, and then that will generate a list of schools. But which one I really like is this College Match. This one's a great tool because this is just going to generate schools that are looking for a student like yours, all right? Just based off of GPA test scores, the information that's in here, this is giving me a list of schools that says, these schools might be a good fit for you. And so this gives me a starting place to start checking out different schools and seeing what programs they have based on the interests that I've listed in Naviance. So is that helpful? Okay. Yes. I'll ask the counselors to come on up. While she's getting that loaded, the question was, when you start wanting to go and take tours, seeing schools, what is the benefit of that and what should you be asking and looking for when you're doing these tours? Is that right? Yeah, I know. You have the tours right here. Yeah. Go ahead.
And jump in if you guys have anything you want to say about this. So we go on tours of colleges. I just got back from a tour of Baylor, which is why I have a Baylor water. I didn't go to Baylor, but I have a Baylor water bottle because I went there to
college
visit.
swag.
You went there? So they did take us a lot of swag. So one of the things you look for is how much swag do they give you for free. That's always important. But you want to go on a tour, they're going to give you like the glitz and glam tour, right? They're going to show you the big deal, like the parade, the band. Oh, this is their 8 billion blue lights for safety.
Yeah.
That we always get, yes. And they're going to show you a sample dorm room that looks nothing like an actual dorm room. It's like in their newest, most amazing building, like that just got built, and it has a decorator that did it for them. Yeah, you're going to say, "Can I see a real dorm room, please?" I ask for that. Go ask to sit in on a class, a freshman class. Like, see if you can see a lecture in action. Like that's why I always tell parents to go when college is in session, because you want to see. Like, what's the average class size of a freshman class if I just popped in right now? And sometimes you might be pleasantly surprised. It might be 100 kids, but a lot of times it's like 600 kids. It's like, whoa, it's a lot.
Or go when the classes are getting out.
Yes.
So students can see, you know, the campus life, see the activities. See
Go to
what
the
students look
comments.
like.
Yeah, go to the comments because you can
Lunchroom.
see what the campus, what the vibe of the campus is. Like, you know, you get a good sense of diversity around the campus. You get a good sense of, like, do students interact with each other? I visited a campus with Mrs. Wilson a few years ago when I was pregnant in the middle of winter in New York. And we noticed that none of the students were talking to each other. It was the weirdest thing. All the counselors on the tour, like, kids were just like anything to avoid each other. And you're like, oh, I don't want to go to school here. Nobody likes each other. Try to go and eat the food. That's another thing. Like we always tell our students, go eat in the cafeteria. See if you could eat there every day
for a whole year? Would you find enough stuff that you'd like to eat? Or will you be eating Lucky Charms in the middle of the night like I did?
Or the surrounding areas. You know?
Safe, yeah.
What is not shown here is the surrounding areas.
Yeah.
So you see the school, you see the campus, but what happens when you go a block to the left? You know, those are all things you want to see,
Yeah.
get a feel for.
And find out about weekends too. That's always important because some colleges, even if it's out of state, right? You know, and it's a private school out of state, a lot of kids might be locals and leave on the weekends, and you don't want your baby that's going out of state to a college to be all alone on a weekend while everybody else is gone. So that's another thing to think about, to pay attention to. Yeah.
And so those are just things that cannot be captured in this, you know. It is great if you can go to be on person and campus tour, but with technology, we do have all these options where you can get those experiences virtually. The nice thing is to keep in mind too, and we remind students about this senior year, is that we have, over 100 reps who come here from colleges,
Yeah.
come to us and meet with students. And so students can go attend those presentations and make those one-to-one connections with those reps who are reading for this area. So this is potentially the person who's going to be reading your letters of recommendation, your essay. And so we want them to go make that handshake, that eye-to-eye contact with those reps when they're coming here and meeting with them. And they can do that during classes, during lunches. And that's all early fall semester. Yeah.
Yes. It's on Naviance.
Yes, there's a running list of the college tours when they come.
Up at the top, it's under, if you click on colleges, you'll see college visits. That's where it's at, yeah. And it'll have them all scheduled in the fall when they start to show up. Usually around like mid to late September through October, it's pretty busy.
Yeah, and since we're back fully open, a lot of people have now been making those trips again, so. Yeah. So it's another good way.
Ooh, question.
You mentioned the two types of financial aid applications. Once they're filled out, do they just automatically go to whichever school needs whichever one they want, or do we have to make that determination somehow?
So there are two types of financial aid applications. There's the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, and then there's the CSS profile. Both of them you kind of have to take the initiative to do yourself. The FAFSA opens on October 1st, and the way that you do that is you're going to go to department. If I started to type it into my computer, it would totally pop up there. Google FAFSA, it'll take you right there. The government wants your money. And what happens is they take your taxes into account, so you have to put in all of your tax information for the prior year. So it would be 2021 when you go to do it this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 2020. Anyways, in October, I think it's for 2020 in October when you do it. Because the prior year would be 21 and then be 20. Yeah. So 2020. And so October 1st, you'll put in all your tax information and all your stuff, and then they're going to tell you this ridiculous amount of money that they think that you can afford to pay for college for your kid, because that's their estimated family contribution and of what your need is.
They have a formula that they determine what need is.
Exactly.
You determine.
It's not what you really need, it's what they think you need.
Yeah.
And it's always totally, they think you need way less money than you actually need. So they're gonna tell you, like, your EFC is like $25,000 a year, and you're gonna be like, that's ridiculous. But you still should fill it out anyways, because some colleges, you have to have a FAFSA on file before they'll give you any aid, merit aid, need-based aid, anything, or scholarships. So just do it anyways. It's like Nike, just do it. And what's that?
Wooey.
And yeah, and WUI's based on that, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then the other thing is the CSS profile, and that's different. It's just like the FAFSA, but it's for private schools. So it's like Columbia and what's another one that takes, like Boston College, schools like that. They're the ones that require the CSS profile, and it's another thing that College Board controls, which is really obnoxious because they control a lot of things, but you have to do it on their site. So you can't just marry your FAFSA with the CSS profile, unfortunately. So.
So once they're in, though, there's not anything else we need to do, like when they are applying. Like they're just
For financial aid wise, no.
List your schools.
So yeah, when you do your applications, you're going to do all that stuff, list your schools in your application, and then once it's time to do the financial aid part, you're gonna do the FAFSA, and then you're gonna list your schools in the FAFSA that you want that information to be sent to, and same thing for the CSS profile.
Yeah. And then when you get it back, they'll show you what you're awarded for based on that.
And
based
that-
on each school too.
Yeah, based on each school, yeah. And then what I was gonna say about the WUI, which is a great point. We will put a link on, we used to have it on Naviance, and I'll put it back in the document resources for you again. But what it is it's a link to all the WUI program schools, and WUI stands for Western Undergraduate Exchange. And what that means is there's a whole consortium of schools in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, some in Colorado, some in California, and Hawaii and Alaska that agree to a tuition remission sort of program. So what happens is if you decide to go to another state that's in that consortium, not all the colleges, but some of the colleges, they have some sort of program where you can either earn a scholarship based on GPA and test scores or through some sort of merit base that they have or a calculator to see if you can get in-state tuition out of state at those schools. So, right. And so it's a really great program. It's a great way for students to be able to go to other states on the West Coast and still get essentially in-state tuition. The only catch is room and board is still the same price. So don't let it fool you that it's going to be amazingly cheap. But for some schools, it's a really great deal. So we'll put a list of all those on there. We'll put a link to the WUI website for you. Any other questions?
Earlier, you talked about trends in early decision, right, or early action. Could you talk a little bit more about what you're seeing and trends like that? And I also have a question. I heard last year that there was a boom of applications having to do with the pandemic, which made it some of the target schools reach. And I'm wondering if you could comment on whether or not that was, in your view, just sort of a one-time thing or not.
Will it stabilize, I guess is the question.
Yeah, right. That's the thing we don't know. I would love to tell you that I have the answer to that question, but I don't. And I don't want to make a prediction on it because I feel like making a prediction on anything related to this pandemic is like trying to be Nostradamus. I really do. I don't like to overpromise and underdeliver. So I'm not gonna make a prediction there. I just think
the trends that you were seeing even
I think what was happening is that a lot of students, 2020, 2021 graduates, made decisions based on what was going on in the world. So a lot of students decided either to stay close to home or maybe not go to that school that they were accepted to because they really wanted to go to because it didn't make sense at the time. But now, here we are, things are opening up. Those same students are now saying, oh, now I do want to go there. Now I do want to apply to that school. And so it made the application pool that much more inundated this year because people who were already at schools were deciding they wanted to transfer this year and now go to a school that they really did want to go to. And so it just kind of made it harder for applicants because everyone was feeling the pressure because everyone was receiving all these applications. And so, like you said, students who may have felt the school was a safe school and easy in were finding out, no, not necessarily, because they had all these applications to review and compare.
That's exactly what happened. I mean, talking to reps, they said that. They said they had an inundation of applications. They've had, I mean, every year they get more. So you've got an already climbing, I'm going the wrong way for you guys. You have an already climbing line. And then for you to have a group of students who decided to defer, take a gap year, or go to community college, you've got 1 year of those students, right, the class of 2020 coming through now, and then you have 2 years, 2021 coming through now, so that's 2. But I don't know how many more there are from 2021 that decided to defer 2 years. If they do, that's going to cause another little hiccup here. So,
and now with a lot of schools being test optional,
right.
That's putting those options on the table for students who might have been deterred by that, who are saying, now I am going to apply there because they don't have that test requirement. So then that's also creating that surge?
I think it's going to be for a few years. I mean, I do think we're going to see some waves because they're still sorting out, do we want to, schools on the East Coast, several of them have referred back to testing. Schools on the West Coast, we're still like, hey, we want to figure this out. We're West Coasters. We want to give everybody an option. And so because of that, there's still going to be some more ripple effect. So I don't think we're going to really know for a little while here how it's going to pan out. But, regardless, it's going to be more competitive every year. I think a lot of us would say, gee, I don't know if we'd get into the colleges we got into if we applied today. It's really hard. It really is. And
I think the other thing, though, is that students are also finding their own little golden nuggets that they
Yes.
hadn't considered before. It's also putting pressure on a lot of colleges and universities to offer more attractive scholarship packages and stuff like that. So I think what we're trying to get students to just maybe think outside the box, maybe consider places you hadn't thought of, maybe go off the beaten path from the schools that everyone applies to and consider some other ones because you could find a lot of scholarship money there or just find a gym that you hadn't even considered that's a great place to get an education.
yeah, and we put through, 230 kids every year. And every year we see stories where kids are so dead set on this school, that's the school they have to go to. And then they don't get in and they end up going to someplace else and they have the best time ever. And they love that school and it's the best place for them. Or a kid comes into our office in August and they're like, I'm gonna go to such and such because everyone in my family's gone there and that's where I'm gonna go. And you're like, just think about this. Just think about this. I really have I think you're gonna be happy at this school. Just check it out. And they end up checking out that school and falling in love with it and it changes their life and you get an email from them 6 years later saying that they had a life-changing experience in college. And that does happen. So, I mean, there's a school for everybody. We do our absolute very best to match these kids with the best place for them. It might not be where they thought they were going to go. It might not be where you thought they were going to go. It's kind of a transformative experience going along this road with them. So, that's why we do it. It's fun. But
3,000 colleges and universities in the United States alone. So
Yeah.
there is a college.
yeah, so
For them.
we will help them find it.
Is the SAT
Do you want to answer that one, Katie? SAT or ACT being offered again in time for...
I saw someone try to sign up for the July date, and that was a no-go. So I think as far as now, until they reload for the new year coming up, I think we're in the lull. The summertime, they tend not to post anything. They will then, after July 1st, repost what the dates are coming up. And I will say it may not be exactly July 1st. We encourage students just to check every day in the morning because it's kind of like, it's almost like a lotto. Like they wake up and they try to get a seat because everybody needs a date before October. And so it's very competitive to get into those spots. We offer an in-house SAT coming up in October on the 12th. You won't find that date online because it's in-house and we're not opening it up to the public. And so we'll send you information in the fall. So if your student would like one more opportunity to retest or test for the first time, they will be able to get their results back. They might have to expedite them. Can't guarantee that they'll turn around if they have an early date application, but the later dates for sure. October 12th. Yeah. And also, I forgot to mention, the test scores are something that students are responsible for sending to the colleges. You'll want to log into ACT or College Board to send those, because you may decide, you only need one college to get the score, or whatever the case may be. It's not expensive. We encourage students to not do the option while they're testing I think they say we'll send 3 or 4, I can't remember, it's 4 test scores for free on the test date if they indicate which schools they want to receive those. We we really discourage you from doing that because, especially when schools are so optional, it's best to consider what the score was before that college finds out what the score was. Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard to say.
Depends on the student, but I would consider their GPA. They're a strong student, has a strong GPA. That GPA could be enough to carry them without test scores, right? But if they're a good test taker, then why not, right? Why not study, get the test up even more, and submit that? And that could be the difference, or it could be the difference in scholarship money. And how selective the colleges that they're considering.
Some of the highly selected colleges that are test optional really prefer to see test.
Yeah, they're saying test optional, but you probably should send test scores.
They're test blind. They don't even want to see scores.
So they won't even look at them if you send them.
All of the UC system and Cal State.
All the UC, so all the Cali schools test blind. So then that puts more weight on your GPA, your essay, letters of rec, extracurriculars, volunteer, service, leadership.
I will say there's also test prep, if not in that scenario, but in other scenarios where it is necessary to have a good solid test score, there's a test prep option for every budget. You can find private tutoring, you can find group, small group, online access to lessons that self-pace. We've given you a list that I know is current of some of the resources available. It is not by any means exhaustive, so if you find other ones that you prefer, that's great too. We offered one this past spring. Tutors across America came here and did a large group format, and students saw a significant increase in their scores, about 150 points, some a little bit more for an SAT, and then I believe 3 to 4 points on ACT for some students. They saw an increase. So absolutely, is test prep helpful? Yes, I would say that in a heartbeat. Those tests are not based just on what you know. There's a little bit of strategy, yes. So it's something to consider. We will have Tutors Across America back here in August. I believe I had it on the slide, but the date might be, I think it's August 21st-ish. It's a 3-day boot camp. So it's a great option because it's 18 hours of instruction. It's kind of the biggest bang for your buck. It's $200. If you need a scholarship, it's free. So we have options. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Just that. She had her hand up for a little bit.
Super score, yeah, depends on the school.
Yeah. You are able to combine scores called the super score. So if you test really well in the English section of a test, you can take that score and the math score from a different date, and they'll call that a super score. You can do that multiple times and choose. But they both do it. SAT and ACT will both super score. But not every school will accept that. Yeah. And then, I'm sorry, back there.
So, two quick questions. One, if you sign your kid up for the August boot camp, and then they take the SAT that's in-house here in October, any thoughts on the amount of time that is going to happen between that boot camp and when they sit down for the October test? In terms of, is it still going to be effective information?
I would tell every student, once you take that class and get exposure, you need to continually expose yourself to those skills. And they will provide, the paperwork. They get all of that back that they did in the class. I'm sure other tutor companies do the same thing, that you'll want to continually take other tests online, that practice tests, things like that, just to keep it in their mind. I would definitely think more exposure is best.
And then, can you offer any advice in terms of helping the students in terms of writing out their essays for their application?
Yeah, lots of advice on that. So there's lots of support they get from us. So first advice, don't let your friends read it. It's terrible advice. They get the worst thing that I see with students is that they let friend A read it, friend B read it, friend C read it, friend D read it, friend E read it. And then they've got like 5 different opinions and they get confused because they're getting, I loved it, I hated it, I didn't like this part, you need to change this. And they want to please everybody. So of course they change the whole thing and it's nothing to do with them anymore. This essay is really personal. This is like their one opportunity to really see like a student come off the paper and not be just their stats, right? So this is like written in the student voice. So don't let their friends read it. That's the first thing. They're going to get tons of support in their senior comp classes this year. Even if they have AP Comp or AP Lit, there's other teachers that will help them. So they're going to get that support. We offer a boot camp that we're going to be doing on the 24th of August, and I'll send out an email about that later. But it is, we have someone from PLU, Melody Ferguson. She's one of their deans of admission, or actually she's like a vice provost now or something. But she comes and she talks to our students about the do's and don'ts of the Common App. So she explains like all the pitfalls that students tend to fall into with the types of topics that they go on, because they use the prompts are kind of the same from year to year. There's always a few little tweaks, but they're pretty similar. And so students always tend to gravitate towards certain topics that they shouldn't write about, and then the kind of the cliches that students write about. So she goes over that with them. And then there's also another boot camp that's being put on by the ACE, I believe. That's an actual writing workshop that they can attend. So watch out for that on the website or for information that's coming from Kelly Goodsell. So there's those opportunities, as well as during September Wednesdays and October Wednesdays, we are going to be hosting in the Counseling Conference Center. We do something called Appy Hours, where after school on Wednesdays, students can drop into the counseling office and we have snacks for them and music and our delightful company. And we will help them work on their applications, whether it's just like going through the nuts and bolts of the Common App or something like that, to giving them essay support and reading, their essays and giving them feedback. So
The essay can be tricky.
it can be, yeah.
It's tell us a story about a experience in your life that tells us about you, but also keeps our attention, but we're also judging you on it. So that's really what it's about.
It's pretty hard, yeah. So, I think, but we are there to help them. So I don't want students to rush and write their essay over the summer because they feel like they have to check that box when they could get lots of help in September and write a 10 times better essay, yeah. So.
There's a lot of online resources too. YouTube has a ton of people that demonstrate some of those tips for essays. If you Google amazing or outstanding award-winning essay, any of those type of phrases, it will generate a list. And it's really profound because you can read an essay and you think it's pretty good. You're like, oh, that's great. And then you read some of those that are award-winning, that got the scholarship or got into Stanford, and you're like, I see why. It's just really great exposure to get your eyes on as many essays as you could, before you start that process. And to also consider working backwards through the process. Instead of starting with the prompt and then trying to develop something, look at the life of the student, tell them to explore that, a slice of their life that was very impactful to them, what changed them in some measurable way. You never want to do a timeline or a mission trip. Those two topics bore them.
Or a sports injury.
Yeah, you want to kind of drop in a slice of their life and paint it in a way, in a short, quick couple paragraphs, that experience, you want that person to be able to see it, taste it, smell it with them, be passionate with them. If your student's not passionate, they're not going to be either. And as we talk to admissions officers, they like you to basically, through that story, tell why they're going to be an asset to the school. And then when you kind of work through that piece, then look at the prompts and say, well, which one could I tweak it just a little bit that it's going to fit? That's, I think, one of the more helpful things I've learned talking with admission officers. Remember, these guys are reading thousands, like 25 applications or more a day. So we put our heart and soul into these letters of rec. I seriously put 2 hours into writing a letter of rec for each kid. And the students putting in multiple hours in those essays. I mean, you know, it's a big production, right? And they get a total of 7 minutes of exposure time with that admission officer before they flip the page over to the next one. So that essay is really, really impactful and important piece.
The most creative, most random topics are the ones that stand out, that kind of are able to cut through that noise. So we love the one about the hair. She talks about her hair and her journey of embracing her hair.
A girl cooking with deodorant shopping. There was a girl cooking an Indian meal with her Spanish grandmother. I've had one that was about ballroom dancing. It was written by a state champion cross country runner.
So those are just like, those things stand out. And so those are the things that are going to capture the reader. So
yeah.
Good luck.
All right, there's probably time for one more question. So that's where you're going to want to look at a concordance table. You can if you want to, but I mean, yes, you can submit both test scores, but I would recommend that every student talks to their counselor and says, hey, what do you think before I send my scores? Because we can see the data. I mean, they could see the data too, but we can usually project out also with what we know about a school and what their trends are. But I do think that if you have one score that's higher than the other, and they take both, why would you send the bad one? Send the good one. Send the better one. Put your best foot forward. And maybe you don't, you know, you might think they're great too, but they might not be great enough. So that's why we always want you to check with us first, like, because we know what's trending, what's happening. So
just because it's your personal best,
it might not mean it's the best. Yeah. All right. If you guys have questions, all of our emails, we didn't bring our cards down because, you know, no one ever asks for them anymore. So you can find our emails on the website if you need anything else. And we'll be in the office through Thursday, and then we'll be checking email this summer on Mondays. So, on Mondays. All right, thank you.